It's very, very common for people of all ages to say, things aren't the same as they were when I was a child. There's people who are 60, 70, 80 years old who say, the world's changed and I don't recognize the world anymore. There's people who are 20, 30 years old, like me, who say that things just aren't the same as they were 10 years ago. The streets aren't safe. My neighborhood isn't safe. People don't treat each other like they did when I was a child. So many people say this, that there must be an unconscious reason why they say it. The world has changed in so many ways in the last decades. Sometimes it seems that it changes faster than people can comprehend. The issues that people have 20, 30, 40 years ago might not be the same issues that they have now. But there is one thing that is consistent. And if you'd have asked people in 1960, 1970, 1980 what they think is the greatest problem in the country, and then you asked people born 10, 20 years ago what is the greatest problem in the country, the first thing that comes out of most of our people's mouths is the state of the Westminster politicians and the institutionalized treachery of these criminals who rape and pillage this country for no other purpose than to stuff their own pockets with other people's money. Over the generations, our people have faced many enemies from foreign shores. The wars of the beginning of this century, the first is beyond living memory, the second will be in 10 or 20 years. That was a foreign enemy. When people think to the Cold War, it was ultimately a foreign enemy. Foreign enemies can be fought. Foreign invasions can be stopped. But there is nothing so poisonous and so cancerous to a country than an enemy that lurks within, that pretends to be an ally but is actually a demon. And these people, these cockroaches that live in the House of Common Criminals, or the House of Lords in their ivory towers, these things are not people, they are demons. Every single day they rape and pillage this country. Every single day they think up new ways of betraying our people. If we think to this current situation of the £8 million a day being spent on housing illegal immigrants, and you think to the left, to the Labour Party, to the trade unionists, to the Marxists, to the communists, you think to the left, to these people, their objective with immigration policy is to replace the voters. They know that they have lost the vote of the British people, and so their solution is not to change their policies. Their solution is to change the voters and replace them with stooges and people that can be tricked into obeying their every whim. Unlike the British people who lost faith long ago, who won't turn up for more than 20% at a local election or more than 50% at a general election. And then you look to the right, to the Tories, to the capitalists, to these internationalists, these financiers. And for them the motive of immigration policy is to make money. It's them who hand out these contracts to Serco, to the owners of these hotels. It's these wealthy Tory donors whose pockets get heavier and heavier with coin with every hotel that fills up. The motives differ, left and right, the motives differ, but the end result is the same. And the end result is the degradation and destruction of our people. Up and down this country, over the last 6 months, I've seen protest after protest after protest Whether it's here, whether it's Wales, whether it's Yorkshire, protest after protest. But we still haven't got the political change that people want. And the question we have to ask and understand is why. We must recognise, as much as it's a bitter pill to swallow, we must recognise that protesting alone is not a solution. What we must do now is to do what people couldn't do with the EDL, what they couldn't do with the protests of the past. We must turn protest into genuine political action. Our people are crying out for an alternative to the corrupt men of the system. If we want that alternative to exist, we cannot just complain it into existence. We must make it into existence ourselves. And I know that can seem like such a daunting task. But our people have faced harder things before, and they can face harder things again. If we want a political answer, we must bring it into existence of our own accord. But what will this answer look like? Any party which has any hope of fixing this problem must focus itself on two things. Firstly, it must fundamentally present itself as a new kind of politician. People can turn up like Richard Tyson, they can say things that people agree with, but that is not enough, because what our people want is not a new kind of party or a new kind of ideology. They don't want to hear about racism, socialism, fascism. They don't want to hear it, because these things are the words and problems of yesterday. What our people need is not a new kind of party and a new ideology. What our people need is a new kind of politician. So that is the first principle that any party that can solve the problem must follow. The second principle is it must fundamentally be a nationally minded party. It cannot be a party whose loyalty is to any international agenda, any global agenda, because the only thing in this world which is truly international is money. And any party and any group that throws its loyalty behind an agenda that is not fundamentally rooted in our own people will find itself in the hands of the same international paymasters that are destroying this country as it is today. These two things must be made true, and it can be done. All our people need to do is to take protest and turn it into politics. Myself and the people I work with are in the process of building such a party. It's not easy to do, but it can be done. And in the next 2 to 3 months, we hope to have a fundamentally nationalist party in place for our people. It is never going to be enough to endlessly protest and demand change. If we want a solution, we have to make the solution ourselves. We must get away from this belief that the criminals of the system can be persuaded and pleaded with to make a change. Because the truth is that these people, Matt Warman, the MP, the rest of the House of Westminster criminals, these people know that they are opposed. They know what our people think, but they do not care. So long as they get their pound of flesh, they do not care. So the solution does not lie in pleading with traitors and con men to help. The solution lies in taking those con men and those traitors and ramming them into the sewer of history where they belong. We have all the tools we need within our own people who are rooted to this land with 1,000 years of work and heritage. We have the tools that we need. What we do with those tools depends on us. No longer can we turn to these traitors to ask for help. No longer can we turn to the rapists of Britannia and demand that they stop their deception and their lies. The lies will never stop. These people are irredeemable, but their redemption is not what we look for. What we need is the redemption of our own nation and our own people. Because if there was one thing that we are to blame for in this whole saga of what has happened to our country, the one thing that we must take the blame for is the lack of vigilance that allowed it to happen in the first place. Our salvation is within our own hands. It's not going to come from any outsider, from any foreign nation, from any foreign government, and it's not going to come from the hands of the same people whose treachery has dug the grave for this nation and put our people in it. Our salvation will come from within. It's something that we possess, just like our forefathers possessed, and just like our children will possess. Our people will never go away. We don't need to march the streets telling people that the streets belong to us. We know they belong to us. Our people are unconquerable, and they will be here in 1,000 years' time when the liars and traitors of today are dead in the ground and forgotten about. Those people are just passing through history, but our people are the history of this nation. We are the future. We do not need to linger in the past. What our people need is not memory, but vision. We need to think about what the nation of tomorrow will be like, not the nation of yesterday, which is now gone. The problems can be righted, the sins of the father can be forgiven, and the wrongs of the past can be put right. And it can be done with only an iron will and the determination that our people possess. They've simply forgotten. They've forgotten because they've been relentlessly filled with propaganda for so many years, telling them that they are worthless people. Our people will prove otherwise. Our people have worth, and this worth will be made apparent. And all those people who have said for so many years that the British people are finished and they have nothing left, they will be proven wrong, and they won't realise that they are wrong until the point when judgment comes for them. And when that happens, they will see with their own eyes that they were wrong and the British people were right and will always be right.